So how else can we take the pressure off a weak pelvic floor to protect as much as possible?
That's a really good question. If you know your pelvic floor is weak and you're getting signs that it's weak, like bladder problems, it's important to be respecting the fact that it can't manage the day as well as it should be able to, and as well as hopefully it will grow to be able to. So it's a support structure, and it's going to need rest, and it's going to need to think about, do I have to do that thing that would put a lot of pressure on it? So if you're a new mum, you've got to do lifting and carrying. There's no escape. And babies are heavy, but we'd really encourage you to think about something like using a sling to get the baby, some of the load of the baby carried by the sling on your back or on your side, rather than having the baby right round the front, putting weight on you. And if you're a new grandma as well, think about, if you want to cuddle the baby, sit down to cuddle the baby. And don't be swinging the baby around and jigging it up and down. Rather sit down and have the baby with you where there's more support from the chair. New mums are also dealing with a lot of lifting and carrying with prams and car seats. So if you've got a car seat that can go on wheels, use the wheels. Don't just leave them in the corner at home or in the boot. Get them out and wheel the car seat around. Those car seats weigh more than the babies some of the time. Some people find it helpful to have two prams, one that's always set up at home and the big pram, and then have a little umbrella pram, a fold-out one that just lives in the boot. And so you don't have to load your pram every time you go somewhere because you've got one already in the boot. And it's good enough for those little shopping trips or into, visit a friend. But if you were going for a big walk, you get your big pram out. But it's like having 9 lives. You want to use them sparingly. And wherever you could make a design change to make there be a bit less lifting and carrying, the better. I think we're all guilty of overloading our handbags, overloading our shopping bags. And it's just those little decisions like, you might not have much shopping, but wheel it anyway in the trolley all the way to the car and then unload it if you can, rather than carry it. And put things in backpacks rather than on arms. And in the garden, putting pots on wheels or putting things into wheelbarrows and wheeling them around rather than carrying them. And what I always say, boys' jobs, we're girls, we have girls' bits, they are quite vulnerable. Women have parts that can move and we have pelvic floors that get used in childbirth, so we are more vulnerable. Maybe just be a girl sometimes and say, could you do this for me, to somebody who doesn't have girls' bits. I always think of things like suitcases, loading them in and out the boot or getting them off the carousels at airports. Those are big, awkward lifts and they put a lot of pressure down. White goods. Oh, I'm on a roll now, aren't I? Fridges, freezers, tumble dryers and washing machines have concrete blocks in the bottom so that they won't fall over.
As ballast, yeah.
And so they won't shake. So if you push a washing machine out the way because you want to get to the cobwebs, that is a really big push. And if you've got a vulnerable pelvic floor and vulnerable internal organs, you would be so cross if that was the thing that pushed it all down a bit further and made you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
I had a lady once saying she'd moved a coffee table and it was a solid coffee table and she felt her pelvic floor go and a prolapse. And it can be that simple, it can be that easy, but we just need to protect as much and be aware. Be aware.
And we don't want people to lose their independence or feel that they're being fragile or wet, but it's just these sensible moments of decision where you think, do I need to do that really? Or could it be left? Or could somebody else do it? So we're not trying to disempower, we're trying to empower our bodies to last for longer and be stronger and be less vulnerable. And I think that brings us to sort of choosing your exercise and what you're going to do for fitness and for sport. Because we want people to be fit and we want people to lose weight by being active. But we also know that some sports are heavier on the body than others. And so if you've got a very vulnerable pelvic floor or you're suffering from prolapse, you would want to think about choosing something that's less high impact. So less high impact is cycling, swimming, brisk walking, walking with poles, Nordic walking. So if you want to walk faster and harder for your fitness, but without loading, the Nordic pole walking is really good for that. It's been really helpful for people with back pain. That's how we know this. The things that have the more impact are your running and jogging, trampolining, all those rebound kind of activities, or your high impact aerobics. So it's not all aerobics, but you might not want one of those classes where the instructor's really into jumping up and down a lot. You might want to choose the instructor who favors the sort of lower impact body weight balancing, less jumpy stuff. And just choosing what will suit you best, being mindful of the pressures on the bladder.
And gym work, are there certain things that we should avoid in the gym? You know, sort of like leg raises, squats, sit-ups. I think squats are particularly good for the pelvic floor.
So I think if you're going to work out in a gym, definitely have that session that they always offer you where they teach you how to use all the equipment properly. Because most gym stuff is safe if it's done well. But all gym stuff can put a lot of pressure on your back or your pelvis if it's not done well. So it's about your technique, especially if you're lifting weights. Even small weights, but especially machine weights or bigger weights, you want to get the advice of the personal trainers in the gym about whether you're lifting well and whether your technique's good. And you can ask them to watch you squat and make sure that you're getting a good angle and that you're stretching your calves. And squatting, we do think squatting is what we call functional. It's using all your muscles in a very natural way, and your pelvic floor is part of that muscle action that should lift and lower. But if your pelvic floor is very weak, you could be vulnerable in a deep squat because it might not be keeping up with your legs and your bottom. They could be strong, but inside could be weak. And then at the bottom of a squat, it could all be quite gapy and open, and that would feel uncomfortable and might make you leak, especially if you then put a weight on the top. So you might need to keep your squats shallower at the beginning as you build up your strength and keep your weights light. And then you can progress by squatting deeper and adding weights on the top. You don't want to be coming back from an operation or from a new baby and going straight back to deep squats with big weights. You need to go back to a beginner level and build up. And this is what personal trainers and your physiotherapists can really help you personally to work out what you need to do for your level of fitness and your level of strength.